claims that may come due to maybe decisions and actions. Farm and agriculture, I think you know that is a covered insurance under non-life. We had our friend from Zamara, Rosemary, talking about that. Let me see what else. Pet insurance. Did you guys know there's pet insurance? No? Yes. It doesn't exist in Nigeria, but there is pet insurance, and pet insurance is pretty much health insurance for your pets. And then depending on which country you're in, it might cover the liability from your pets. So like maybe if they damage something or they bite somebody or something like that, but that varies. Let me see what else. Renter's insurance. So does anyone here have renter's insurance? No. I actually have renter's insurance. It actually is a coverage that exists in Nigeria. So it essentially covers your own property as a renter, right? So your furniture, your clothes, whatever. You'll be surprised how much, if you calculated how much the stuff inside your house costs, you'd be surprised. So it covers that. So if there was like a fire or something, it would cover that. It also could cover things like your laptop, your cell phone, right? You might have to just declare it, but it covers that. So, lots of interesting things there. I'm just trying to, trade credit. Does anyone know what trade credit insurance is? No. But this is actually something that's very, very important in Africa. So trade credit covers businesses for non-payment of goods. So I'm sure a lot of you own businesses. We know people like to hustle in Nigeria. So if you're working with other businesses, a lot of times you will deliver the goods before you're paid. Or when things like construction projects or the larger projects, you usually start working, you usually start delivering things before you're paid. So this insurance covers you if the person that you're working with didn't pay you, right? So there's insurance for a ton of things. I know that maybe because we don't have so many non-life actuaries, we do not have the coverages here. They're not being taken up. And also, again, kudos to Kudos for his presentation yesterday, talking about access, because I'm talking about how I have renter's insurance. To find that renter's insurance was not easy, okay? I just did it because I came from a place where I'm used to it. I've seen how it has protected some people, so I wanted to make sure I had it. And yeah, getting it wasn't easy. Finding people who are covering it is not easy. Remembering to renew, not easy, but I actually now have an insurance agent from the company I'm insuring with, and she's on it. She actually just messaged me yesterday going, oh, your renter's insurance is due at the end of the month. I'm like, oh, okay, so, improvements. But yeah, so some of these could exist more. More of it could exist if we had more general insurance actuaries within Africa, and then also if regulations are flexible enough to allow us to develop these products. And also just to touch a little bit on sectors that general insurance actuaries work in. I mean, obviously insurance, reinsurance, the normal stuff. But transportation, very famous example from the CAS. Frank Chang, one of our past presidents, is the head of analytics at Uber, which a company that all of you know. Uber needs to manage its claims. They have a huge team of actuaries led by an actuary. Travel, so Expedia, which is kind of like Waka now, hires actuaries to look at their data, monitor stuff, reward programs, also hires actuaries to try and figure out the best level of benefits to what that you're offering people compared to how much they patronize you. I'm thinking what else? Oh, there's an example someone gave me in the US where Disney World, I keep getting confused between Disneyland and Disney World, the one that has the ton of rides. So they actually hired actuaries to predict where the crowds are going. So if it's too crowded over there, the actuary will say you should send Mickey Mouse over there at 2 o'clock, so that will draw crowds away from that. Yeah. So a different, I guess, a different place to apply your actuarial skills. But who would have thought you'd work for Disneyland? And then also, I think someone gave an example of betting. Definitely sports analytics. Actuaries are used there to analyze the statistics and also help sports teams figure out which players to hire. So there's lots and lots of places that you can work as a non-life actuary. And I love it because it's so dynamic. You can apply yourself anywhere. I think the key is understanding the business, right? You always have to understand the business, and then you can move forward from there. Okay, so I'm gonna just cover a few points of why general insurance matters in Africa. And I think, you know, we actually even had a conversation earlier today where people were saying, oh, life, you know, I don't know why, but okay, I think I have ideas why. Developing countries, the first place they go is life insurance. The first place they'll put actuaries is life insurance. And we seem to just leave non-life insurance to the underwriters. And I think it's because people see life tables and they think they're complicated, so they don't want to deal with it, so they're like actuaries. And then they see the non-life stuff and they're like, oh, it's just short term, doesn't matter, I can do whatever I want. But the fact is, non-life is more volatile than life. And that means there's more uncertainty. What does that mean? That actually means you need to apply actuaries there more, right? Because we're there to quantify the risk, we're there to help reduce the uncertainty. So I actually think that there's a greater need for non-life actuaries in Africa than people realize, especially because we have to be creating products that are tailored to our environment rather than trying to import them. So there's a lot of places where legislation is changing that would increase the need for non-life actuaries. We have an example right here in Nigeria where with NERA, you're now required to have non-life actuaries to sign off. And if you're paying an actuary to sign off, why don't you get the one who specializes that can add value and is not just checking a box? There's lots of, I talked about the urbanization and economic development. If there's so much opportunity there, we're definitely going to need more general insurance actuaries. Climate and catastrophe risk. Africa is said to be one of the most exposed continents to climate risk. So, and we see this, you know, flooding, we see that. So if that's happening, I mean, I think there was an example earlier today about flooding in one of the villages in Nigeria. Look, it's going to be more exposed. We need to be able to have experts that can look at that. We need to be able to have experts that can give us more parametric insurance, but tailored to our environment. And how would we do that if we don't have our own experts? Agriculture, I think I've mentioned. Financial inclusion, microinsurance, of course. I think this is a theme you've probably heard from my mouth over and over again. We won't be able to create products that people will want to buy if we don't have the experts to be able to look at the local environment, understand the way people behave. Somebody mentioned this, so that we can create products that they will actually purchase or buy. So yeah, I'll just move on from there. But the gist of this is there is huge opportunity in Africa. And Nigeria specifically in terms of having non-life actuaries and having applications for non-life actuaries. And I genuinely believe that addressing that will help us address the issue of our low insurance penetration. Okay, and then just talking about a career without borders, that was the kind of the theme for this. So for me, you know, I have a CAS credential. I had a question when I was at Unilag about how did I choose or why did I choose to be a CAS actuary. And the answer really is that my employer chose it for me. So I mean, I was, you know, for those of you that know my background, I did start my career in the US. So I got this job actually working for EY, and they hire lots of you and then they just say to you, you are going to be a CS actuary. So I did, but actually, and growing up here, or growing up in Botswana, I actually believed that I was going to be a life actuary. So again, for those of you that might know my background, I did actually decide to be an actuary when I was in high school. But then because all I knew was life, I said I was going to be a life actuary. So when I was in university, I was like, I'm going to be a life actuary. And then I got my job and they were like, no, you are going to be a CAS actuary. But anyway, I'm really happy that happened. Because for me, again, I'm biased. I find it more dynamic. I find it more places for me to be able to apply myself and understand. And also I find it more energetic, I guess. You have to pay attention more because something that happens in the world today can immediately affect what you're doing. So I like that. Some people might not, but I do like that. And so with my credential, I've been able to go all over the world. I seamlessly moved from the US to the UK. Yes, I do have an additional designation, but that was more because for signing actuarial opinions locally. And at that point, I know there's like discussions. It was actually, I didn't go and do the IFOA exams all over again. I just did, I fulfilled the requirements and did a practice module. So it's recognized, our designations recognized all over the place. And then moving here to Nigeria, taking on a Pan-African role, it was also seamless. Like you learn a lot, you can just apply yourself and be, and adapt to your new surroundings. And then of course, now I'm the CAS President-elect candidate, which shows that your career doesn't really have borders, right? So you can be anywhere and then become anything that you really want to set your mind to be. But I think with this, I will also just put in a plug for volunteering as well, because the only reason everybody at the CAS knows me and people, the nominating committee went through that and said, yes, Yvonne is going to be our pick. The only reason for that is because I did volunteering. So I've actually volunteered from day one when I was a candidate. I volunteered and at the time, the only place for candidates to volunteer was what we called our Future Fellows group. So that's what I did. And we wrote articles for Future Fellows. We tried to discuss what makes sense for the Future Fellows. And then as soon as I graduated, got my credentials, I was in the UK by then, and I volunteered to now welcome all the new people that have moved and help them adjust. And then, so all that time I was volunteering, and volunteering actually helps you develop skills well beyond just your technical skills. So I think when I was in, when I first started my career, I was so focused on this, just technical. Yes, I did some volunteering, but I didn't realize how many doors that opens for you. I didn't realize how many additional skills I'd learned. Like most of what I've learned about governance, I learned from working with the CAS and through the CAS board. So, there's actually loads and loads and loads of experiences, things you can learn, doors that can be opened because of volunteering. So I would encourage you, volunteer where you are, volunteer wherever, that actually will open huge, huge doors for you. Okay, so to help people understand the CAS pathway a bit, so first I'll just tell you why students choose the CAS. So the biggest, or the thing we hear the most is that the CAS exams are practical. Whatever you're learning, it applies directly to your work. And I'll give you an example of a candidate we have in Kenya who, our exams actually don't need to be taken in a certain order. You can take them in whatever order you want. But that candidate, he skipped, I think he was supposed to take MAS 1 and 2, I'll go through those in a minute, and he skipped right through to exam 6, which is our reserving exam, because it covered IFRS 17. And so he skipped straight to that so he could learn IFRS 17 so he can apply to work. And he came to me and he was like, and Yvonne, it solved all my problems at work, all of them. Because what I learned in the exam is exactly the issues I was facing and I didn't know what to do. So a very, very clear example of how the CAS pathway and the CAS exams are practical. That's the thing, that's the feedback we get the most. They are practical, they apply directly to what you're doing. And now I'll just explain the pathway a little bit. I know you can't see this right from the back of the room, but we have what we call the preliminary exam, so that's the row in blue at the top. And then we have our associateship exams, that's the row in white. And then our fellowship exam, so that's the row at the bottom in gold. So again, you can take them in whatever order you want, but I wouldn't recommend you jump straight from preliminary to the fellowship exams, because you kind of need that knowledge from the associateship exams to be able to take the fellowship exams. But we have our first few exams are exactly the same as the SOA one. So we have VEE for economics and finance and accounting and finance. Then we have exam P and exam FM. We just refer to them as 1 and 2 because, you know, we think it's much easier to go 1, 2, 3, 4. But we do have those exams. And then we have what we call our DISCs, which are data and insurance series courses. So these are online courses that you can just take in your own time. There's one on data analytics, so to help people with data science. Again, practical. Remember, the biggest feedback we get is that the CAS exams are practical. So this helps you just learn sort of data science topics to be able to apply your work. Then we have one on risk management and insurance operations. So it's kind of like the intro for risk management and helping you to learn about insurance. And then we have one on insurance accounting coverage analysis. Or yeah, that one's the boring one. But that one kind of talks about insurance coverages, so you learn about the forms and everything. And it's something you do need to know as a non-life actuary, because remember what I said, it's about understanding the business and then applying yourself to whatever is being thrown at you. So even though that's not, for me, that's not my favorite part, but it's necessary so you can learn that skill. And then moving on to the associateship exams, we've got these 2 modern actuarial statistics exams that are more like, you know, those are very statistics heavy. And then we move on to exam 5, which is basic reserving and pricing. Then we have what we also call PNC predictive analytics exam. So it's an exam and a project. So this is relatively new. And again, it was brought in because we've been seeing the applications of data science, and we wanted to make sure that that is included within our pathway. And then that's the exam that I said the students skipped to because he wanted IFRS 17 knowledge. So we have exam 6, which is our regulation and financial reporting exam. And then you have to do a course on professionalism before you become an ACAS. Then moving to our fellowship exams, then we have advanced reserving, we have advanced pricing, and then we have a risk management exam. And the thing about the CAS pathway, everybody takes the same pathway. So everybody kind of has the same knowledge. And also, like, risk management is built into our pathway. So we actually don't have to take a separate risk management exam or get a separate risk management credential because it's built in to our pathway. Okay, and then just quickly on some exam waivers. I've had a few people ask me about this. So we do actually recognize exams from other bodies. I did mention that our first few exams are exactly the same as SOA, so VE, exam P and FM. We recognize that exactly. But then also for IFOA and ASA, the exams that people take, CB1, CB2, CS1, CM1, CS2, those are all recognized by the CAS. And actually, so all our UNILAG graduates that got exemptions, congratulations, those are the same ones that are recognized by the CAS. So you actually, if you didn't know, already have CAS credits that you could just apply for. Yeah. So you have options. You do have options. And then knowing that you can do this, you just apply. You just apply, and we'll show us your proof, and we'll recognize those. So you can take CS exams from there. And the great thing about that one, this is not common, like being able to get credit from one of the MAS exams. So we do give you credit for that. And then exam discounts. This is something we're very proud of, because we just have a flat discount, 75% off for every single exam. Includes the discs, includes everything we offer, 75% off. So do take advantage of that. And there are no membership fees required for any students, as I mentioned before. And then we also do offer some scholarships. Like sometimes we have case competitions. We have a summer program for students. There are offers in there that if you do well, you could get an exam waiver. Well, you can get an exam scholarship through there. And then the other thing people come to the CAS for is our professional education. We have tons, because that's what we focus on. We have tons and tons and tons of non-life resources. So we actually have five big conferences a year. So imagine, and these conferences, they're like three-day conferences. So imagine you have options to go to a conference that's just non-life topics, and you have 5 of those. So we have our fall and spring meeting, which covers various topics, but that's also where we recognize our new associates and fellows. We've got a conference that's just on pricing, a conference that's just on reserving, and a conference that's just on reinsurance. So can you imagine, like, if you're looking for continuing education, you can just come, and you'll be able to plug into this. Of course, we have tons of online resources. We have webinars, etc. And then there's also something that we have. We have something called ICAS, which is a place where you can come get they're like credentials on specific topics. So for those of you that saw Ian's bio yesterday, he said he was a certified specialist in predictive analytics, and he got that through the CAS. So you can get, and that's basically like a data science course. So you can get a credential on data science from ICAS. We also have 2 credentials on catastrophe modeling that you can get through ICAS as well. So they're huge opportunities. We have an education calendar where you can find lots of different things. And I'll also tell you about our affiliate membership, because you might be sitting here, you're already a fellow of another body or down the path for another body, and you're like, I can't switch, even though I love the CAS, because Yvonne, this sounds amazing. So you can actually become an affiliate of the CAS. I've got the barcode up there, you can scan it, but you can also just look it up online. Affiliate membership gives you access to a ton of stuff, allows you to also participate in our committees, etc., and contribute to our papers and all that. And again, your 75% off applies to this, so your affiliate membership fee ends up being like $30 or something like that. So take a look at that as well. And then I'll quickly touch on some of the resources we have. So for students, we've got a website called the Student Central that you can just access at any time. As long as you're a student, it's completely free. As long as you're a student, I think they verified using your university email address. You can go in there, you get access to webinars, practice exams, scholarship opportunities. There's a newsletter, there's some tools on there that you can just access. I did get feedback that someone said sometimes some items are hidden behind a VPN wall, so if you come up with something that's blocked, it's because you just need to turn on a VPN, but I've given them that feedback and hopefully that will be addressed. And then we also have some educational programs. So there's what we call our student summer program. And that actually was built during COVID, when we've realized that there were a ton of students who had summer internships but now were canceled because of COVID. So they couldn't do it. So we came up with this program where you could go through this that kind of mimics an internship, or mimics what you could learn from an internship. And it's online, it's free. But the great thing for us here, sitting here in Nigeria, means that you can access this without having to get an internship somewhere else. So again, you have to apply for this. The applications, I think, are usually around March. We have two options. There's a mentor-led one where you assign a mentor, but there's also a self-paced one, because our mentorship ones they sell out quite quickly. So I say sell out, but they get full. You don't have to pay for anything. So do apply for that. And then we also have a PNC Actuarial Essentials course. That one is available at any time. You do have to pay for that one. I think it's just like $100 and something, but remember, 75% off. So it's going to cost you much less. But self-paced, online, foundational skills. The CAS is also partnering with ADA to offer some of those for free. So watch out for that on the ADA channels. And then also we have a scholarship program that gives out $2,500 and $5,000 grants, $5,000 grants to people to pay for their actuarial exams. So this goes to students as well. So this is very competitive. So I recommend, like, the applications open in January. But anyone that is planning to apply, I recommend to go to the website now. Take a look at the requirements. Take a look at the profiles of people that have won the scholarship before. Take a look at what you have to submit and start preparing, because it is very competitive. One of the requirements is that you're on the Student Central. So hey, go sign up on the Student Central now and start using it. So just look at that now. We have actually, the CAS has actually gone out of its way to make sure that on the board, on the selection committee, there are people who have international experience or international outlook, so they are able to at least help understand the applications that are coming from outside the US and put them in context so that we're it's a little bit fairer for them. But please take a look at that if you're a student. We also have the Academic Central for university professors, again, completely free. And if you're a member of the Academic Central, that gives you free access to our meetings, seminars, and webinars. It costs you nothing, but you now get even free access to webinars where you don't have to travel. For me, that's a huge advantage. And also, for those of you that were applying for the URP, the University Recognition Program, I know Unilag already has it. I know Dr. Naz, yours is on its way if they haven't already contacted you. But yeah, I know that the Academic Central is part of that. And also it gives you access to teaching materials for your students. So if you want to include actual practical case studies within your academic courses, it gives you those materials to be able to do that. And again, GI base, we have a huge bank of research papers. You can access them on that QR code. We've got a magazine that comes out twice a month called the Actuarial Review that talks about news and things that are of interest for GI actuaries. We've got Variance, which is a more, it's peer-reviewed, it's more academic and technical. And they're actually trying to get that recognized by GIF and Scopus, which hopefully the academics recognize that, like when you're trying to review academic articles, you see those credentials. We have an e-forum where you can post research papers that aren't peer-reviewed, so even if, say, you tried to go for variance and it wasn't accepted, you can still use the e-forum. We have research papers and we have RFPs. We actually have, there's also the GitHub for the CAS. So for those of you that are techies, you can take a look at this. It gives you code for various things, like your triangles, for your reserving. There's actually even some AI tools, AI reserving tools that have been created using research grants, that if you scan this, I think it takes you straight through to the AI reserving tools. There's something called Team Analyst that I was looking at that I think is actually really cool. It can do your whole reserving for you using AI. Don't use it blindly. But we have tons of resources that you can use. So please just check it out. All of this is free. And then search opportunities. There are proposals. We also work with the SOA on some research grants. So you can submit proposals. There's a $50,000 quick start grant, which I believe that was what was used to create the AI reserving tool. So you can come up with different things. If you submit a proposal and it's a good one, you could get the research money and do the work. We are always looking for additional research papers that apply to emerging markets. So definitely we want the papers from African professionals. So please take a look. You can, if you scan this code, it will take you to our research opportunities. URP, I mentioned that. Congrats to Uni of Lagos. I know Dr. Delegate was talking and was like, oh, we got silver, but actually the fact that that was a wonderful thing. So congratulations to them. And as I said, Dr. Nast, yours is coming. And yours too, yes, you said did you say you applied yesterday? Oh, okay, wonderful. And I don't know if you know, because we had a webinar maybe last week, and we had said the first 5 African universities to apply would also get early access to the case study. So I don't know if others have applied, but maybe you might be one of the 5. So yes, please do. And then I think this is my last slide, just to think about the future of GI. You know, there's AI coming up. We talk about this a lot. The actuaries that are going to be successful in the future are not the ones that are scared of AI. I don't believe we're going to be replaced by AI. It's going to be the ones who can utilize it to make what they're doing better, right? So AI is there. It's not even coming. It's there, right? Now it's about how are we utilizing it to make ourselves more efficient. I told you about Team Analyst. Check it out. We've got autonomous vehicles. I know they're not here. I got a chance to sit in the Waymo when I was taking an Uber in the US. It was a very weird experience sitting in the back and just watching the car move. And also with people, you know, like you stop at a traffic light and then the car next to you, they're like, wait, there's no one in the car. It was so funny because I was sitting at the back and I was watching them, and it was hilarious. But anyway, that was an interesting experience, and we know that Africa leapfrogs. So this is all being tested. They're coming up with rules. When it's ready, it's just going to come here and it's going to be like, phew. So let's be ready. Cyber, parametric insurance, we've all talked about that. Climate risk and NatCat modeling, I think that's going to be really, really important for us going forward, especially within the African context. So maybe just to summarize some of the resources, depending on where you are. For academics, we've got Academic Central. Please take a look. We've got our university recognition program, and we've got a ton of research opportunities. If you're a student sitting in the audience, CAS Student Central, please do take a look. Summer program, completely free. Exam discount, 75% off everything. We've got our DIS, we've got the Trust Scholarship. If you didn't hear me say before, just look at it now and prepare, because they are competitive. But if you get the money, wow. Early career, I mentioned our PNC Essentials course, which again, 75% off, discounts. We've got practical. I've told you how the exams are practical. I gave you that example of the guy from Kenya who he did the exam and said it solved all his problems. And then we also have other publications that are geared directly for candidates, like the Future Fellows one I mentioned before. And then for experienced actuaries, huge opportunities for professional education, development opportunities, research. I mentioned the GitHub. We've got affiliate membership for those of you who thought this was wonderful, but it's too late for you, but you can still join the CAS. And then speaking and networking opportunities. So that's all I have for you. I'll just end with this slide. We do have a webinar coming up, joint webinar between the CAS and ADA, trying to help people understand the CAS pathway a bit more. We're also going to have panelists on that webinar from Africa that have done their exams, and they'll share their experiences. So that webinar is on Tuesday, the 7th of July at 2 p.m. West Africa time. So you can sign up using the QR code. So that's all I have. I'll see if there are any questions. Thank you.
Have to do P and FM first. So are you saying one can go straight into the DICS, or is still you have to do P and FM with the SOA first?
I haven't heard that before. I think you can apply, you can register for any exam, but maybe I'll just double check that, but I have not heard that you have to do that.
Okay, thank you, Yvonne. I'm happy to say that my university, Ahmadu Bello University, just got 3 exemptions VEE. Thank you so much.
Congratulations.
Leah just announced it to me a few minutes ago. So thank you, SOA. And then secondly, I didn't quite get what you said we should do the webinar. We didn't get the link or anything.
Can you go
so
back
that
to
we can
my last slide, please? Yeah, my last, or my second, the one that was showing before. The one with the QR code for the webinar. So when, yeah, this one. So you can just scan that QR code and that will take you to the registration link for the webinar. Cool.
Once again, I say thank you for the presentation. For the examination, how accessible are they? Mm-hmm. So if I want to advise my students to write the exam, where are the venues?
Yeah.
So I want you to give me information on that.
Yeah, so we also use Prometric centers, but not the Prometric. We use Pearson VUE centers, and they do exist. It's very similar to what SOA does. There's one in Lagos. I was literally having a discussion with some of the CAS international team 2 days ago about which other places we can open exam centers for within Nigeria and other countries in Africa. But right now we have one in Lagos. I definitely love to hear which other locations have demand. But yeah, right now, for now it's in Lagos, but we listen to people, we move, and actually the Lagos one, just to tell you how people are listening, it was when I arrived here and I looked and I was like, why do you want people to go to Kenya to do an exam? And within a month, there was an exam center in Lagos. So it's just, yeah, it's just about demand. It's just about knowing where people want to take the exams, and they do listen. The staff do listen, yeah.
Hello, thank you for your presentation. So for CAS now, CAS only focus only on non-life insurance business, not there's no live. So that's very good. But as you now, what's the name of the journal as an academics that one can publish with CAS, and then what kind of a ranking does it belong in? What I don't know. Maybe I can have an idea about that. Because that's my own.
So you want to know the name of our journals?
Yes.
Okay, if you can bring the slides back up again, please. So we've got Variance. So our most academic journal is called Variance. They are peer reviewed. So this is on slide 19, if you can bring the slides up. Sorry. Variance, yeah, if you could just go back. There's some more. Keep going. Yeah, this is it. So we've got Variance, so that's the most academic one, and as I mentioned, we're trying to get that even recognized by GIF and Scopus. Those don't mean anything to me, but I think it means something to academic people. And then, but they're peer reviewed, and of course, as the CS being the only entity focused on non-life, we are the ones that are producing this information for actuaries, right? So, and then we've got, but I mentioned we have an e-forum as well, so that's going to be stuff that's not peer reviewed, but people do post their research. So you can go on there right now and see what sort of research is on there, but that research is more like it is a forum, it's not peer reviewed research. Actuarial Review magazine, it's more, that's the sort of stuff I like to read. So you know, it's more about current issues, and then yeah, I think that's the main one. Yeah.
All right, thank you very much. Did we have the QR code for our speaker? Yes. Okay. Did everybody? We have our talking about data collection, and this is a session on the development of Nigeria's specific mortality table, as it is one of the most significant actuarial projects underway in our country right now. And the effort to build a mortality table grounded in Nigerian data is a game changer for our industry, and today we are going to get to hear about that journey, the challenges, the breakthroughs, and where we go from here. Our wonderful speaker is Teju Scott, and she has 25 years of actuarial experience with a significant number of years in the property and casualty and health business. She has also been a part of life mortality studies. She has worked in various actuarial roles, including head technical and currently as a chief risk officer. She made a bold decision to come back home to Nigeria after 15 years abroad and has had the opportunity to contribute to the development of the actuarial profession in Nigeria. She is a traveler who likes visiting historical sites that existed BCE, including the wonders of the world. She hopes to see them all someday. Teju is an associate of the Society of Actuaries. Please give a round of applause for Teju Scott as she takes the stage.
That seemed like a very long walk. Thank you very much, everyone. Good afternoon. How do I do this?
Press down, not up.
Okay, great. And so I want something to Yvonne. So I had a job when you said that your employer decided what you're going to do. So I had a job. It was a PNC company in the States, and everyone was doing casualty. So that's what you had to do. But then I left to another company where it was SOA. Well, here we are. So these are the things we're going to talk about today. Why do a Nigerian mortality table? Who are the people that put it together? Who are the people that worked on it? What methodology did we decide to use? The data overview. This is really about the data collection, so I'm going to talk mostly about that. And then I'm going to talk about the products. I'm going to talk a bit about where we are today. Things have happened since this was put together, or since we chose this topic. So I'm going to talk about those things. Now, why a Nigerian mortality table? Some people might think, who sent you? The ones we're using, are they not okay? We've been using them for years. And you're going to talk about people that died. Let the dead bury the dead. Just leave things as they are. We don't have to do a Nigerian mortality table. But we are. And these are the reasons why. It's kind of, first of all, I did talk about the A770 tables. They've been using those tables for years. I think a few decades ago, when I went to school, we were using them. And we're still using them in Nigeria. So some of us might think it's okay, but it's not, because they do not represent our own environment. They do not represent our mortality, the mortality here in Nigeria. At least we don't think so, because we're checking. We're doing our mortality table, so are they going to look like what we're using? Are they going to be different? We're going to find out. The other thing is, It is kind of a sign of maturity of an insurance industry when you have your mortality table, especially when you have interests from other parts of the world. It makes us look serious that we have our mortality table. So that's another reason why we're doing it. I think I've already talked about all the reasons why we're doing it. So who are the players? There's a committee, the Nigerian Mortality Table Development Committee. The committee consists of the regulators, consists of insurers, consists of NAS, of course NAS is there, and is chaired by Mrs. Moibat Jimo. The committee appointed a consultant, Calland Consulting. They've been working for 50 years. They've done consulting work in Africa, including Nigeria. Now they work with a company called Barnett Waddingham. Barnett Waddingham, they have done the technical work on this project. They have a special team that does work on mortality tables. They do the mortality tables in the UK. They've done mortality tables for other African countries, Egypt, Rwanda, and Kazakhstan. I don't know how to pronounce that word. Kazakhstan. And then the regulators, of course. The regulators have been very helpful. If not for the regulators, I'm not sure we'll have got as much data as we did. So they kind of helped us push people to send us data. And of course, without the insurers, without the technical people in different companies, we wouldn't have gotten the data that we had. So thank you all very much. And this costs money. So the African Reinsurance Foundation are the sponsor of this project. Okay. So what's the plan? We plan to get raw data from participants. Participants means companies. Each company was going to give us there was a plan. Get their data, review their data, get validation of their data, process the data, get validation of the processed data, aggregate the data, get validation of the aggregated data, and do the graduations. That was the plan. And we kind of followed this plan, really. Okay, so talking about the data. For people that do data analysis at work, any kind of actuarial work, we call it data cleaning, data analysis. So a lot of these things you've seen, you're very familiar with, but we had to, I'm going to talk about them because they differ a bit by product. We did retail, annuities, pensions, and group life. So, for example, the data, this also happened. It was for a 10-year period, 2014 to 2024. We wanted, but not written, wanted policies that were active during that period. So let us say you bought the policy in 2010, and the policy is still active as at 2014, then we wanted to know about you. That was what we wanted for 2014 to 2024. So some of the common fields that we worked on, you guys are aware, client number, policy identifier, sex. Sex was very important because we wanted to do tables by sex, date of birth, the regular dates, date of commencement. And then for setting policies, there were some special fields like transfer status. You only transfer, transfer out. I think it's for pensions, so we wanted to know your status. And this list was not decided by just the consultants. They were decided together with the industry. So some of the things we wanted to do, the industry told us, no, that won't work. So for example, we were okay with we wanted the companies to decide their policy identifier. But then one of the committees said, no, you can't use your RSA ID. It's not unique. And it was very, very important that we did not see any personal data. Data privacy issues, we didn't need to. We were in there to see policy identifiers and client identifier. So that was sorted. The commencement date was kind of unique to programmed withdrawal pensions, because pensions data you have the day you started contributing, you have the date that you start to withdraw. So we needed those. For annuity, you only had Where the RSA or the PRA data, those of us that are working, you've been contributing for years, and after a while you have to buy either an annuity or you do program withdrawal. There's a commencement date to the program withdrawal, so we need 2 dates for the pensions. For the retail, wanted to do tables for term life, whole life, term life, whole life, and savings accounts. This was very interesting. This was the one that was most difficult to do. You know when you have a policy, a life policy that is whole life or term life, the only benefit you have for the regular plain products, the only benefit you have is death. That was easy, just 1 line, death. But sometimes you have products that have death, CI, and TPD. We wanted to see each line for one person. So we wanted to see Teju Scott, sum assured for death, Teju Scott, sum assured for CI, sum assured for TPD. I don't think any company could give us that data. And I can imagine that currently they won't keep data in that form, so we didn't get anybody to give us data that way. So there were limitations. Group life death with CI and TPD. So that we also asked for that for group life. And with group life, you know, you have your own share of the business. So we didn't want to double count. So we said, you know what, let us know if you are the lead. But if you want to let us know if you're following, put a column there and let us know. Down. Oh, I didn't mention here when I talked about the company that was appointed, Calland Consulting. I represent Calland Consulting. So the methodology, I've talked about that. This. Okay, data collection. NAS had a big role, played a big part in this. They had folders for each company, online, Google, I think, Google folders. And so companies could go in there and upload their own data. So we asked for data by portfolio. If a company has group life annuity and group life, what kind of life company have group life annuity? Retail, we wanted all of your products in your own folder. The data was anonymized, so we didn't know which company had which data. Data was anonymized. Did I also mention that when I was talking about the date of birth, we also asked for it to be anonymized. We did not want to know we couldn't want to be able to tie data to anybody in particular. So date of birth, we asked for date of birth to be the 16th of every month. So if your date of birth is 1st of June, we asked you to give us 16th of June, and so on. So it was very important that you anonymize the data as much as possible. The first set of data came in October. Data collection alone was from October to May. We had to cut it off at some point, so that took a very long time. So data review is where we check the data. Does the data have the fields in the format that we asked for? Do you have all the necessary fields? General data review that you would, and then this is a stage where we had queries. You give us all your data and everybody has exited. That's not possible. You give us data and you don't have any date of birth. That's not possible. So sometimes what we got back was a new set of data from the companies, and sometimes they just tell you this is what they have. Okay, I'm going to skip this because I have a question here. I have a question for the House. So remember I told you that we wanted the PRA data for annuities, but there are other types of annuities. You can see that the standard annuity has the biggest volume. So that's what we based our graduations on the standard annuity book, that's PRA, and that's in payments. That's what we based our graduations on. Okay. So the graph on the right, this is right, this is left, on the left, shows the volume of the data. The blue line shows the exposures and the red line shows deaths. It's really important to understand the kind of volume you're dealing with when you consider what's on your right. What's on your right are your crude rates with a 95% confidence interval. I don't know if this was, I didn't expect this, that the volume for females will be about half or less of males. Did you guys expect that? This is for annuities. Somebody said no. Yeah? Anyone wants to tell us? But this is just even volumes, like the people that are insured. Do you have another mic that is the only one?
So I was saying that maybe women, life expectancy is supposed to be higher than that of men. And again, due to childbirth and certain exposures for the women, that's why you are getting these figures, and the trend analysis is showing this.
So on the right side, we do see that the female mortality is below the line, and then for the males above the line. So it does look that way. But I'm even saying that this part looks like they're, I don't know, 100. Let us say 100, because the total.
I would expect the reverse from the data. My a priori expectation would have been the reverse. For the women, it would have been higher.
No, I thought at least equal. Does anyone else have another idea?
No.
Someone said no.
I want to agree with the data, because if you look at what you are looking at, consider the age of the people you are looking at now. There are more men in the labor industry than women. Just my observation.
I didn't know that. So this was a big eye opener. Now I'm going to go back to talk about annuity data. Before I do that, so when the older you are, the higher the mortality rate. That's how it should be. Right. Except in Nigeria. It's only in Nigeria where it's kind of flattening out. That's where what we're saying is that from like 60 to 80, expecting you to go up, right, significantly. In the UK, it's about 8 times between 65 and 85. And I'm sure most parts of the country, same thing, similar. But here, our own is about, and there's a flattening there. Another question I want to ask is, does anyone in the industry know why? Because we cannot be different like that from the rest of the world when it comes to mortality. I know we have Agbo. I know we have grandmothers in our villages that live to 108, but surely it can't be that. So does anyone want to tell us why? We have reasons that we think would help us, but
sorry, one of the reasons could be the fact that on average, the average age at which people buy annuity is around age 60. And if by law you have a 10 years guarantee period, so from age 60, if I buy an annuity at age 60, after 10 years I will be around age 70. As such, I think one of the reasons could be the fact that people outside the guarantee period, they are not necessarily reporting their debt, because once I report the debt, the payment stops. Because if I'm not sure, but if you check the data of the debt count, you'll see that the majority of debt are reported within the first 5 years. Then after 5 years, the debt count reduces gradually, because people start seeing that if I report my debt now, the money that I'll be getting would be reduced. So that could be a reason why around age 70, the crude rate is not that good. And also, in terms of the number of life around that part is very, very small, as we are just getting to more and more of that age. So that could be the reason why around that age band it's a little bit flat. It's not like it's lower than age 70, it's just flat. But I believe that as we get more as the more book become more mature, it should tend upward.
okay. And we thought of those two things. One more, we'll have one more, and then we'll move on because we have other products.
Just to add to what the earlier speaker just said, I will also add that probably insurance, the companies in the annuity space don't carry out required verification regularly, in the sense because doing this verification is a bit expensive compared to just making the payments, continue making the payments. However, with innovation, I think by the time you can do your verification easily and it's cheaper, we'll start seeing death case reported.
So it's kind of what he said as well, something like we continue to pay even after people have died because nobody has reported, we have not validated. If anyone is collecting money, they won't come and tell you they're still collecting it. But in the first 10 years, they would report. Why? Because they're going to get a lump sum. Right? That's what you, okay. All right, I'm going to go back to the slide that I skipped.
Pedro, we have one more question.
Okay.
Sorry.
Answer, one more answer. Or idea.
Okay. I think what I wanted to comment on, somebody has already mentioned it. So in terms of the exposure, I think the person that spoke correctly got it correctly. So I think what happened is that if you're looking at the data, people that are currently getting their annuity, if you look back, say 20 years ago, you see more males in employment used to sit at home, and support the family, and that is what has translated into the exposure that you're seeing. And in terms of the death rates there, I agree with what has been spoken so far. I think people are not reporting deaths, so we need to interrogate the data a bit more to be able to make something out of it. I believe, looking at it now, possibly we could have asked in terms of, I know some companies, what they do is that if they want to do, if they haven't heard from any annuity over a period of 1 year, they might decide to stop payment, see if the annuitant will come back and report. So how many of those such cases did you capture in that data? That might help to explain the movement. Thank you.
Thank you. Really, also not having data in that area, you can see towards 70, we don't have a lot of data, we don't have a lot of volume. So it's going to be volatile. So we really can't tell. With time, we'll have more data that will be credible. Right now, we really can't tell. So it is not true. Let me not say it is not for a fact, but mortality increases with age, okay? And with time, I'm sure we're going to see that. So I did this on purpose because we have, okay. So you see that where it says 10-year guarantee period, it also says annuity industry is also fairly new in Nigeria, which reflects in fewer older policyholders at the older ages. The volume is quite low. So we had 12 data sets, and all of them were acceptable. All of them were usable. There was one data set that didn't have dates of death for a significant number of their exits, and we had to make assumptions on the date of death. Otherwise, excellent data, but there was dominance. Dominance means one or two companies have most of the data. This means that we are relying on that company's data quality, or the quality of this work kind of relies on that company's data quality. So that's for annuities. Pensions, okay. Pensions? Okay.
The annuity, the lump sum, the annuity and program withdrawal. So the annuity is coming up, we're developing the markets, the products are not there, but it's saying that once an individual in Nigeria retires at age 65, then you can decide to choose either annuity or program withdrawal. So if you want to choose annuity, you get to go to the insurance industry, and if you want to choose program withdrawal, you go to the pension industry. Then there is a drawback. The Nigerian pension industry is like, oh, how do we gather money, accumulate money, and give it to another industry? Then we have to look at the policy. I sat on the policy so that they try to do it in such a way that they can keep some of the money. So what is happening now is you're going to see the trend in maybe the next 20 years improve, because people will have the market improve. We'll have people that are forced to take annuity within that 10-year range, and then you will see the numbers coming up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, madam. Thank you. And so for pensions, as just as like annuities, we got very, very good data. 18 companies sent in their data. We could not use 7 dates of death. We didn't have dates of death for many of their records, if at all. There were also the order of dates, chronology was an issue. So you see dates of death that are before dates of birth, or you see dates of death before the date of joining the company. It really couldn't work. Some of them, they're going to find a few lines of those in every record set, data set, but in some it was too much, so we couldn't use the data. And when we could use the data, for PFAs, we have pre, those of us that are contributing, and we have post. When you get to the withdrawal age, you are post-retirement. Before then, you're pre-retirement. Okay, if you see from this table, you can see the volume is in pre-retirement. I think for the companies where we finally used, we only had 5 companies that had post-withdrawal data, the rest didn't. So you see the weight is in pre-retirement. The post-retirement had about 93, which this post-retirement is actually more than what we saw for annuities. Now, that's not all you have, but that's those are the biggest numbers, and that's what we're using for our graduations. Down. Okay, interesting. So male and female, it starts to flatten out as well from age 60, right, for pre-retirement. This starts earlier because people start to work earlier. This is our working stage when we start to contribute. That's pre-retirement. Again, it's about half the volume. So someone said earlier that they did not expect this. I did not expect this, but they're like, yes, we have fewer women in the workforce, this much lower. And so the next one shows us the post-retirement. Post-retirement, again, the female thing, I don't know. Then the data for post-retirement, we usually start around 50, where you can retire, and then we see. Okay. Retail business, 23 companies have submitted their data, and we could use 16 of them. Data was also pretty good. I mentioned earlier that we couldn't get the split we wanted. Critical illness separately from TPD. So there were limitations there on how we could use the data. This shows that the term and savings are the biggest part of this, and so those are the 2 we've used for the graduations. Okay. What's the big difference here in the graph? Can anyone tell us? This is not the class, but we need the industry's input in this because it affects all of us. First of all, there isn't a significant gap in the volumes for male and female. I don't know why. Does anybody know why? This is the retail business where you have customers that buy term life, whole life savings products. There isn't that flattening. We're seeing the crude rates increase as expected by age. We don't have that flat. And I think maybe companies don't have them in a way that it could be extracted. I know we have schedules, but do we have them in a way that you can pull data for all of your companies? I'm not sure. So we didn't have very good data for group, and at this point we decided that we couldn't go ahead with graduations for group. So we don't have tables, we have nothing. This is all we have for group life. From all the data we got, we'll be only able to use 1. And there was something not right with the date, at least for that one. If you look at 1980, June and July had the most numbers. Are this even real dates of birth? It's not certain. So we didn't do anything for group life. Now, I like this slide. This shows what our accrued rate is compared to what we use today. So the first one, the male annuity tab, these are just examples, so I picked just the annuity and retail term. Male annuity, top left. The dots show the result of our data. We already discussed the higher age not being credible, but the earlier age, 50 to 60, what it shows on this graph is that we are considering that age to have a lower mortality than they really do, because the dots are above that line. That line is a PA90 minus 3. So what it says is we're saying people live longer than they really do, right? And so below that, between 60 and 70, we're assuming worse than they really are. There's going to be a fitting to smoothen the accrued rates, but at the end we'll have to make some decisions because we don't have much data to smoothen that end of it. But so that's what you see there. On the female side, it's actually more it's the same for a longer age group. We're assuming that people are living longer than they really are on the female side. When it comes to retail, I think the retail, when you look at the accrued rates, I think they're pretty much, well, they're very close to what we're using today, right? Although, again, the line, the 1967-70 line is above, so we're assuming today that people are living longer than they really are. Is that the other way around? The mortality is lower than it really is. Yeah, so people are living not as long, I think. Same thing on the retail side. So it's close to what we're using today, 6770. These are just showing you crude rates versus current tables. The fitting has not been done yet. I mean, not on this slide anyway. We have like 3 more slides to go. So graduations. That's where you fit to those graphs that I showed earlier, and the fitting will determine the rates we'll be using. The fitting has been done. Proposed QX tables have been shared with the industry, but we need companies to come back to us and let us know if they have any questions, thoughts, if they think it will fly or not, if they have recommendations, and if anyone has any recommendation in the room, please let us know. The tables that have been proposed now are only 2 tables, pre-retirement and post-requirement with the sex combined. That's what we have now. And for post-retirement, we have combined annuities and post-withdrawal, because when you retire, you have 2 options like Madam mentioned. Well, are we really different? Would you expect a different mortality from somebody that goes to buy a program withdrawal and somebody that buys annuity? We don't expect that to be different. However, someone asked a question once, do they belong to the same social economic class, the people that buy program withdrawal and the people that buy annuities? We did not check that, but that's a question. For now, we have put them together as post-retirement. Pre-retirement is pre-retirement in programmed withdrawal and retail. We have combined those together. So those are the proposals now. So we also have to talk about or decide on what methodology to use for the extrapolation and then what age range. If our current table stop at 120, I don't know, where do we want to stop our own Nigerian mortality table? Next steps. The final report and tables will be shared with the industry soon. We will need training, so all the work that has been done to produce the tables, we've been doing them often. I won't say annually, but maybe not annually, but we'll be doing them often to update the data, update the tables, because we'll have more data. We'll have improved our data quality, and so we We need to train people on what to do going forward. We need to have, so a lot of work has been done on this project. Who's going to own it going forward? What the people that will do the work going forward? We need to establish that. And yeah, we need to get companies to commit to data quality. That played a big role. You saw the graphs, and that is what our data produced. Lots of data, excellent data. We look forward to improvement in our data quality. Otherwise, it was an excellent project. I liked being part of it. That's the end of my presentation. Questions?
Well done for your effort in seeing that we have a live table in Nigeria. As an academics, my student has been looking forward to having a table that is domiciled in Nigeria. So well done for the effort. Now, you mentioned when you're talking about pension, you did mention that you didn't record date, and I was just wondering why it's not recorded. Okay, you have done a good job, but maybe in future, or let me put it this way, did you think of the option of trying hospitals, maybe like mortuary? I know that it may not follow a region or so in Nigeria due to culture and belief, but I think it will also help to get information about death and other things. However, thank you very much for your effort. I don't think we have a perfect table. Even the American table, I don't think is perfect. So the work you have done is a good job. Well done.
Thank you. Question. Can I respond to those questions first? Okay. First question. Only some of the data didn't have dates. For pensions, we had 18 data sets. We could use 11. And the others were, there were some without data. There were some where the chronology of the data, dates didn't work. But we do have dates of death. We're able to use 11 of the 18 that were submitted. On the issue of going to hospitals, this whole project was based on insured lives. So we wouldn't need insured lives and just insured lives alone.
Okay. As we in academics, we teach a lot. We teach the Moses law, teach UDD, Baldushi, and so on with my students. And I really appreciate the situation whereby I could be able to explain that this happens to be Nigerian data and they can apply those theory. So my question is, you just answered one of the questions that were regarding that this happens for insured life. And I'm now wondering, maybe I did not hear that part very well, the issue of the kind of assumptions that we use, because I could see that maybe I'm seeing a crude death rate from what I've been able to see regarding that and exposures. But probably by the time, though some of us are not privy to it, because that's what we use in the classrooms regarding the radix of the table, how they determine the difference between the LX and LX plus 1 and so on. So we will have loved to what kind of assumptions were made to do all that. Then maybe, as you mentioned, I too have that particular, but you said that was for short life, because I've been hypothetically, the ideal that in the different teaching hospitals, you have different clinics, and they are recording births and they're recording deaths as well. And with this kind of backing, assuming we are now working with the Ministry of Health, and then not every hospitals, because from what we have now, I'm not sure we have the data regarding the number of people who are buying and the region who are buying life insurance, for instance, maybe for pension. Everybody's pension cut across. But for issue of life insurance, do we have to me, I don't have that data. It might be skewed towards maybe southwest, maybe than the north. If you are not using the data of the life insurance, those who purchase life insurance right now, probably we would not be doing the life table to a particular region of the country rather than the whole country. That's just my own personal opinion. Thank you.
Thank you.
Want to take the question?
Yes. Second question first. Data was requested from all insurance companies, wherever they are in Nigeria. The data we have is for the insured population of the entire nation. And it's also for insured lives. When you said, do we know how many insured lives we have? This data tells us how many insured lives we have. Group life has a lot of data, but we couldn't get it in the format that was usable. Going forward, I'm sure we'll work on our data quality. But this here gives us the answer to your question. It tells us the people that are insured, the insured lives are here. It's not perfect, and we'll improve on that going forward, but the information you are looking for is here. Insured lives asked for from every company in the country, and this was what we got. I hope that helps.
Yeah. It's a nice presentation. However, I have some reservations about it. As it is, the data you captured are more of the formal sectors. And Nigeria now, we are more, almost 70% informal sectors. What assumptions are you going to apply to your, in order to capture the informal sector? The country is more of informal sector now. And with this, informal sectors are excluded from this your data. So what are you going to do to capture that?
Thank you. The informal sector also that have insurance are covered here. Remember, it's the insured population. So as long as they have insurance, they are also covered here. I hope that helps.
Thanks, thanks, Teji, for the presentation. So I want to find out, maybe I'm not trying to plan the work of the committee. Do you have an idea of what the impact will be? Especially, how it will affect, the insurance company's results? That would be nice to know. Then the second thing I wanted to find out is, how often do you think, based on your experience, of how often do you think we should be updating these tables? Because this thing is that if it's going to affect the insurance company in a way that their result might then we also don't need to know, as we have more data, we should be able to revise the table and then try to incorporate those new information into the mortality table. So based on your own experience, how often do you think that this table should be?
Thank you, Ganu. Although you're a member of the committee as well, I would respond to your questions. Annually will be good, but that's something that the industry will decide. This exercise has taken about a year or less than that, with a lot of support from the regulator. NAS also did a great job. So annually will be great, but the industry will have to decide if we can do annually. That's the answer to that question. It's up to the industry. Can we get that together again within fewer months to get our data together? That would be great. So annually will be good, but the industry will have to decide if they can do annually. With regards to the impact, so let us say that you're assuming that people would live longer than they really are. Let's talk about for reserving. You assume they will live longer than they really are. For annuities, that's kind of conservative because you are planning that you pay people for a longer period, right? For annuities, that's the case. So it will. And this is if, I'm just giving scenarios of if it's better or if it's worse. If currently you're assuming people will live longer, that means your reserving is expecting that people will live longer. If they actually are going to live for shorter years, then you would have more, you will have to reserve less because you have to reserve for a shorter period. That's on that side. On the pension side, if people are living longer than we have currently assumed, then their monthly take-home will have to reduce because it's the same amount of money that has to spread for a longer period. That's the impact of that one. On your pricing as well, there's an impact. If you're assuming somebody will live longer, you have priced that into your premiums they're going to get compared to the benefit you're giving them. If you're living shorter, if their lives will not be as long, let me not put it that way. If they're living for shorter years, you have not put into place proper premiums to cover that period, enough time to cover the benefits you're promising them. So those are the kind of effects. That has not, the way the tables will look has not been finalized, but based on what we showed earlier, you can imagine where the fit will be, trying to smoothen the crude rates, knowing that the end, the ones at the higher end, the higher ages is not credible. So some decisions have been made about that. Nothing is certain, but I've given you scenarios of what can happen.
Okay. Personally, I'm interested in longevity risks and annuity pricing in the pension market. And so out of curiosity, I would like to know if this table will or is already addressing each specific death rate. And if not, do you have intention to incorporate that since you talk about updating? So that's, I said out of curiosity, I don't know if you are going to talk about that, but it's of interest, it's an ongoing interest, it's a research-based interest.
Okay. Thank you. The outcome of this exercise is to produce a Nigerian mortality tables that will address death rates. That's the end product of this, and we're almost there. Tables have already been sent out to the industry. We need their response by the 19th of June. Their response will tell us how it works. Companies need to test it and see the impact it will have on their books. You know, I said earlier that if you're assuming lower ages or like longevity, and it is the other way around, you need to prepare if it has an impact on your books. So the industry is saying, no, we cannot take this one, it's not going to work for us. Some people have suggested that we should not combine the sexes, that we should separate them. You know, those are suggestions. These are what we have talked about today is the recommendation from the consultant. So the table that we're going to get finally will address the death rates. That helps.
Thank you, ma'am.